people are in a situation where they have no choice really other than to say they can't digest everything. There's just so much there. They have no idea. So they're just going to kind of tune it out. I think that's exactly what's happening. And speaking of people kind of pushing things out, tuning things out, not paying attention, I came across something on the way here that I wasn't aware of. Google kind of suggests articles to me that may be of interest. And this one popped up, and it says 7% of Americans believe chocolate milk comes from brown cows. And,
why am I not surprised?
And only brown cows. So there was a study done. Let me actually, I don't remember. It's
like Jessica Simpson. She didn't know if chicken of the sea was chicken or tuna.
If it was tuna, yep. The study in New Haven, Connecticut, conducted by the Innovation Center of United States Dairy. They did some research. I guess this was in response to something the Washington Post did a while ago, and they listed just a bunch of surveys showing that Americans have no idea where their food comes from. Not at all. Some going as far back as the 1990s, where they found out that 20% of people had no idea that hamburgers were made out of beef, which today they probably aren't, but that's
especially at Burger King, the Impossible Whopper.
Yep. So depending on where you go, that might actually be true now. But yeah, so they did this study. They found that 48% of the people responding to this survey or in the study, they weren't sure where chocolate milk came from. And then 7% thought that chocolate milk only came from brown cows.
Did you Snopes this? I mean, did you check this out, or is this from the Onion?
No, this is from Rochester First, which they've got their sources cited here. So I'll pull it up just to be sure. So it's from the Innovation Center of U.S. Dairy, dairygood.org. And they appear to be reputable. They're they're part of the National Dairy Council. So I'm not finding. I think the hard part is that it's not that hard to believe.
This is from a population that largely gets its news from late night, quote, comics, unquote. So I guess it's not that surprising. Back to the Impossible Whopper for just a minute.
Sure.
Did you know that the delay in getting the Impossible Whopper, which is this completely plant-based, quote, hamburger, unquote, approved was there's this process that they put this stuff through where this dye comes out, this red dye. It actually... The meat actually bleeds when it's on the griddle. The
fake not meat bleeds.
Yeah, they want to get it's got blood in it a little bit so that it appears, it looks like as you broil this thing that you can make it well done or medium.
So
it's done with some kind of dye.
Oh, okay. So it's dye. It's not. It's not like actual blood or something, because that would kind of defeat the purpose.
No, it's some kind of.
Although I do forget
chemical.
The red stuff that comes out of meat usually when you cook it isn't blood. I forget what it is. It's some protein something that kind of breaks down.
Anyway, that's what people assume it to be.
Yeah.
And so they wanted the Impossible Whopper to behave like it's actually
behave
meat.
Like it's the real thing. I mean.
What could possibly go wrong? You're eating all this stuff and putting it in your body.
That to me is interesting, and it's a little off topic for the show. But in general, when I go to a restaurant and I sit down and I see the "you won't believe it's not meat" section of the menu, or it tastes just like beef, or that whole thing, it really makes me think about why are people. They fight so hard for people to be vegetarians, but then they spend all this time and all this resources and all this money to replicate meat.
Right, exactly.
And a lot of, maybe not a lot of times, but it seems to be, it's coming up more and more often that what they're using to try to synthesize meat is way more unhealthy for you than meat.
Than eating meat.
Yeah. Now,
I mean, we are omnivores, so I mean, come on, let's have a steak.
Yep. And I get some people do it for what they call, or what they believe to be like, what do they say? They don't like the idea of killing animals, right? That's why they want to be vegetarian. They call it ethical reasons. That's the term they use. I don't eat meat for ethical reasons.
That's easy to solve. Just don't kill them. Kill the animals yourself. Have somebody else do it.
Yeah, well, that's a whole that's a whole other thing.
Just kidding, folks. That's a joke.
But what I do say is I give those people a pass, because it's like, okay, so you're replicating meat, and you're not avoiding meat for health reasons. You're avoiding it because you feel like it's wrong to eat meat. Fine, you get a pass.
And because you want a virtue signal.
Yeah. But if you're one of those people who's like, no, I do it because it makes me healthier, but then you're putting this goofy chemical stuff in your body to try to replicate it, who knows? Maybe at the end, maybe it's still healthier, but I'm just not a fan of chemically created, test tube grown.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with a veggie burger. I mean, Cheesecake Factory's got a pretty good veggie burger, but it's not. They don't try to make it like meat.
Yeah, I mean, if it's, I've heard the black bean burgers aren't so bad. It's, I don't know, crushed up black beans and chickpeas or something like that. Like, good, that's great. That's still natural. But once you start adding in chemicals and lab created processes, and you inject dye in it, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't know. I wouldn't want to put that in my body. But that's just me.
But anyway, you heard it here first. Chocolate milk does not come from brown cows.
Yes. If you thought it did, or if you weren't sure where chocolate milk came from at all, if you were the 48%, it comes from cows.
Andrew, it comes from Wegmans.
Well, yes. Wegmans has the milk machine there.
Sometimes it comes from Tops.
Yep.
Most of it comes from Wegmans.
Yep. You got Walmart in there too. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back to the show, we're going to talk a little bit about, can you retire without Social Security? What type of self-reliance do you have versus reliance on the government? We'll talk about that and more when we come back on Radio Free New York.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice. Save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free. Ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
You're listening to Radio Free New York on the WYSL station.
During the break, Bob D'Angelo, intrepid producer, came up with food for thought. No pun intended. So what kind of cows does strawberry milk come from?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where the strawberry cows hang out.
It's, you know what it is, Andrew? It's communist cows. Commie cows.
Wow. That's disappointing, because I think strawberry milk probably tastes good, but in the long run, I bet it's bad for you. Kind of like communism. People probably think it's going to be good in the beginning.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
What do you get from a commie cow?
Not
good.
Not good. So here we are. This is Radio
We're just
Free
being
New York.
silly today.
If you're just joining us here on the show, this is not the Dairy Show of New York. It's Radio Free New York. We're just talking about 7% of people in the study they thought chocolate milk came from brown cows. So we figured we'd clarify that for you guys before we continued on the show. That's not how it works. So what I want to talk about today, I want to talk a little bit about self-reliance, which kind of ties into the idea of people not knowing where their food comes from. And what triggered this conversation is the idea that BusinessInsider.com, they had this study that was done by a CPA and a financial planner. His name is Thomas Corley. He did this research, I guess, or study over the last 5 years looking into 177 self-made millionaires and looking for commonality between these people. And so I read through it a little bit. There was some interesting information in there that I'm going to share with you guys that we're going to discuss. And then some other information I found from like USA Today and Forbes that I'm going to share with you guys that I think is just good information to know. And then we're going to break it down a little bit, and I'll tell you what it has to do with Social Security a little bit later. So this guy, Thomas Corley, like I said, he's a CPA. He's also a financial planner. Spent the last 5 years studying millionaires, looking for some link. I think he wrote a book. I think that's really the promo of this is like, hey, buy my book. I didn't pay attention to the book, so you'll have to Google him if you're interested. One of the major things that he found that they all shared was they saved 10 to 20% of their income.
That's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was in their pre-millionaire years. So not they became a millionaire and had a ton of extra cash and start setting aside. Before they became millionaires, they saved 10 to 20% of their income. Now, what also is interesting is the overwhelming majority of them did not become millionaires until they were in their 50s. So they spent, the bulk of their life working and saving and became millionaires, maybe with the money they saved, into some investment, like that sort of thing. Some more interesting. So I hear that and I'm like, okay, so what does the average American save today? If these people have this common thing where they're saving 10 to 20% of their income, what's the average American saving?
I'd say zero.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and some of the numbers surprised me a little bit, which is why I decided to share them with you guys. So first I couldn't really find a percentage right away. So the first number I found, and this was from 2018 from USA Today, the average American household has a savings account with a balance of $16,420.
Wow, that's surprising.
That is a lot more than I thought. I was thinking less than $1,000 for most people.
Yeah, I was going to say between 1 and 5.
Yeah, I was thinking much, much lower. And that number does not include retirement savings. It's just a savings account. So it doesn't include retirement savings, CDs, IRAs, 401ks, any of that. That's like cash on hand, which to me was crazy. I was like, wow, I didn't think that. Now this is household, so this is potentially, two parents that are working, maybe with kids, maybe without kids. I did actually look at some graphs that they had too. Families that have children actually have more cash on hand and in savings than families without children, people who are retired without children. It seems that if you have a family unit going, then you have much more in savings, probably for that emergency fund, right? That constant fear of something could happen. We need some buffer. Single family households, though, or not single parent households had the absolute lowest across the board.
That would go without saying.
Yep.
One less wage earner.
Yep.
And that tends to drive your, all these little costs start to rise and it starts to eat you alive.
Yep. Yep. And you may have to pay for healthcare, or not healthcare, childcare, because you don't have somebody who could watch. Like, even if it was a single wage earner household with two parents versus one, well, one could provide healthcare, whereas as a single parent, you have to pay for healthcare. So healthcare. Sorry. I apologize, guys. Childcare, not healthcare. So those things, they make a lot of sense. So finally, I started digging down a little bit more, and finally found some numbers. They range between 5 and 8% is what supposedly the average American is spending today, or saving today. I found something really interesting, though. I found an article about young people today and what they may or may not be saving. And this is from Forbes. They found 16% of millennials ages 23 to 37 currently have over $100,000 set aside for retirement, which I was very surprised by that number. Very surprised.
I'm wondering about this survey.
Yeah, well, this one is from Forbes. So some of these numbers are from different sources because they didn't all put all in one spot. But they actually referenced the study done by the Government Office of Accountability, and said that the majority of people age 55 don't have that much right now, or have close to it. So that to me was really interesting. And so why do I bring all this up? It started as kind of a catchy article like, oh, this is what 177 of the world's millionaires have in common. They save their money. And then kind of looking at generation by generation and family unit by family unit, how this breaks out. And you find that right now people are saving a lot more than they have in a really long time. And that really got me thinking about what does this mean for the American people? What does this mean for the economy? What can we take away from this? And so one of the things that Corley, he's the guy who did the initial research, he identified that these self-made millionaires, as he calls them, what they did that's different from the average person who's saving money right now is separate out their savings. Separate out what's for retirement, what's for an emergency, what's for that wish list item. Maybe it's a home, a car, a vehicle, so that they don't have payments. They're not paying interest, like that sort of thing. They separate it out, whereas many Americans have one or two types of savings, and that's it. Retirement or a savings account. Not even both a lot of times. So that was interesting to me, that although Americans, maybe you do have like $16,000 set aside in a household savings account, you may not have any retirement account set up. So that's an issue. That's clearly like a problem, because if you hit age 65 or whenever you decide to retire and you've got $16,000 in the bank, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be in trouble. So I say all that to say, well, first, just talking about how important it is to set aside money. We're talking about just general sustainability. You should have a few months of income set aside, which it looks like people are kind of mindful of that. I think people really feel the pressure from the last recession, and they're nervous. The other thing I think that we see, especially as young people, I was really surprised how high that number was. I think young people see their parents and other people in their family, and they hear well, I'll retire when I'm dead type phrase, which sometimes is like, I enjoy work, I'm going to keep working till the day I die. But other times it's a more somber experience where it's, no, I have no retirement. And what I have is Social Security, and that's not going to be enough, which that is the case for many Americans. So I think younger people are hearing that and seeing that and thinking, wow, that's awful. And they're starting to actually hold on to their money, which in some ways that's really good. The question is, are they actually holding on to enough of it or not? So this was all kind of a big eye opener for me. It's just these various numbers, what's going on, the different ways people are saving, how people are saving maybe in one way, but not in any other way. And it got me thinking about Social Security, because there's been a lot of talk about Social Security and a retirement income on the national stage. There's been conversations of like a universal basic income, kind of all of these different things floating around. And every generation, I think, hears Social Security might not be around for you. Like constantly, Social Security's running out of money, this and that. And I think that millennials actually believe it. And I think that that's what's happening here.
They believe in Al Gore's lock box. Is that what you mean?
Well, I'm not sure if they believe specifically in that. I think many of them probably don't know who Al Gore is.
No, you know what I'm saying, though. I mean,
but
they believe that Social Security has been sequestered.
I think that they believe
it's not been spent and blown by Congress, which is not the case.
Yeah, I think that most millennials really believe, or they look at how expensive things are today and go, oh, like a couple $100 a month, that's not going to cover my cell phone bill, let alone, the things that they're used to. But I think that they truly believe, like, yeah, what Social Security is not going to be around, or it's not going to be available. So they're saving their money, which I think is really good. And I think that actually can open the door for us here a little bit, because where we are today with Social Security, I don't trust it to take care of us. I don't trust the government to take care of us. I think you probably feel the same way, Bob, right?
Well, it's a little bit different because I've been paying into, like, for example, Medicare and Social Security since 1964. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm much more likely to collect on this than you are.
Absolutely.
Be the bringer of bad news, but I'm 70 next April, and that's when I'm going to start taking Social Security. Mm-hmm. I think, so I would be a lot less sanguine about this if I were you.
Sure. Well, when I say I don't trust the government to take care of us, I'm talking Social Security, yes, but like in general,
Oh, no.
And,
no, the government. Look, that's not what the government's there for.
Exactly.
The government is there. They're there to tell us how to behave and to spend all of our money.
Yeah.
That's what they're there for.
Yeah. And I think that's a Yeah. So I think that that's a common feeling across the board. And I think millennials and young people are starting to say, people keep saying that Social Security is not going to be around anymore. And I actually believe them. I don't think it's going to be around. You look at the deficit, you look at, how politics are, all of this, what seems to be chaos. And so they're starting to save their money. Maybe not for the right reasons per se. They don't really understand why they should be saving their money, but they're at least starting to. They're seeing maybe their parents don't have retirement, so they're like, okay, I need retirement. They're seeing government appears to be in chaos. Okay, well, I can't trust the government for that either. They want the government to, step in and give them health care and take care of retirement and that sort of thing. But they don't believe it's going to happen. So it's, in a way, leading to possibly better habits. We'll see. Possibly. So, guys, we're going to take a real quick break here. When we come back, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this. And if this continues to happen this way, what could happen to Social Security if people keep going down that path of saving enough where they don't need it. We'll talk about that and more on Radio Free New York.
You're listening to the voice of liberty. WYSL. AM 1040 Avon, Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, FM 95.5 Spencerport, and WYSL1040.com everywhere.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Avon Gun and Hunting Supply, a locally owned and operated gun shop specializing in pre-owned firearms and repairs. Get your rifle, shotgun, or pistol serviced and tuned before you take it to the field. Open daily. Avon Gun, East Main Street, between the Bank of Castile and Charlotte's Web of Odds and Ends.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Radio Free New York on WYSL. AM 1040, FM 92.1, and FM 95.5 West.
All right. Welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. We're talking about millennials saving more money than at least the generations before them, relying less on Social Security, and what that could possibly mean. You know, I'd like to believe that millennials, when they look at things like Social Security, they think, wow, that's a broken system. You know, I'm paying into a system that I could potentially pay a lot more into than I ever get out of. If you look at the history of Social Security, which I've actually done a show about, so if you jump on YouTube, I think I've done a show on Social Security, how it works, the numbers, when it was implemented, why it was implemented, and how much of a scam it was when it first was put together, because only about 11% of the population even made it to that age. The life expectancy was actually lower than the age of eligibility. Yeah. So it wasn't.
Which they're still pushing it in that direction.
Yeah.
They keep on pushing the start of benefits to, you know, like when you're 80.
Yeah, I was going to say, for them to do it, I think they'd have to move the age of eligibility to like 83 years old to make it match, you know, what it was when it was first put in terms of life expectancy. So, you know, I see all this and I can't help but wonder, and maybe be a little optimistic, maybe dream a little bit here, that if this could be the beginning of the end of Social Security being mandatory. And I'm not saying like in 5 years or 10 years. I'm talking 30 to 50 years out. So why do I say 30 to 50 years? And why do I say that I think that's optimistic? Because we talked about this earlier in the show. You know, some of the millennials today at 23 to 37 years old have more set aside for retirement than people at age 55 right now. So those people at age 55 and 60 and 65, those people entering retirement, they're stuck. You know, there's no eliminating Social Security for them. If you tried to eliminate Social Security for those people, you would have a large portion of the nation against you on that. You know, these people, if they did any type of retirement planning, they factored that into their retirement planning already. If they didn't, they're still going to be working, and Social Security is going to help them get through. But there's not going to be any like taking that away from them, you know. And they've paid into it their whole life, you know. So they want to get out of it what they can. Absolutely, that makes sense. So I'm saying for a minimum of the next 20 years, I think people are in that situation. Bare minimum, people who would not survive without Social Security. And there's a lot of people that don't like hearing that, by the way. There's a lot of people that would really like to believe that you could just force yourself to be successful and get through that next 20 years and then somehow retire. Guys, if you have to plan for these things, and if you didn't plan, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't have planned. They should have, but they didn't. And I get that. but it's just not going to happen politically in this country. Nobody's going to pull the rug from underneath them. That nobody would be told political suicide. You wouldn't be able to get enough votes for that. It wouldn't happen. So I say bare minimum 20 years before maybe you get to the point where a generation, those 37-year-olds that fall in this category are now 57. Now maybe after 20, maybe 30 years, there's a possibility that Social Security, not going away, but maybe becoming optional, could become a true political discussion. Would I like to see it sooner? Absolutely. That's why I'll keep talking about it, and keep having these discussions. But I think at that 20 to 30 year mark, enough people will have set aside money, hopefully done financial planning, and say, that Social Security, it costs a lot of money. It's terribly mismanaged. It's an awful ROI. Maybe we should actually seriously consider making this optional. And I think at that point, it would be an acceptable discussion. Definitely not today, like I said, not the next 20, 30 years. But I think at that point it would be. And then I think when it becomes a discussion, people would be at a point where they could look at those private investments, look at those savings accounts and go, oh man, I've been paying Social Security for the last, let's call it 45 years. I paid all this money in and I'm going to get $1,500 a month or, whatever it is. And they go, my retirement portfolio, I'm getting $6,000 a month or whatever that number is, figure inflation, all that. Those numbers are actually going to be way larger. And the conversation could actually happen where people would look at it not in an emotional manner because you've kind of pulled the emotion out of it because people aren't like, oh, I'm going to starve and die without this, but more in a logical manner where they go, yeah, government's really mismanaging my stuff. I don't want that for my kids. And they could look at it from the perspective of their retirement is all set. They know they've paid into this broken system, but they want better for their children. And they're not stuck with basically a gun against their head of they go starve without it. So that's why I think it'd take at least 50 years to change it, though, for it to become optional. And it's kind of like disheartening to think that it would take that long, but I think that might even be optimistic. So that's where I'm thinking. What do you think? You look like you have something on your mind.
I'm just trying to come up with a calculus here because you're always going to have a segment of the population that's not going to plan.
Absolutely.
So what's the public policy argument for supporting those people? So now we have some kind of a senior welfare plan. I mean, that's Medicaid, is it not?
Well, so my thought is the way it would go is it would be opt out. So the people who aren't planning aren't even going to look at the opportunity to opt out. That's my thought process. I think that you're going to have, especially say we hit that 50-year mark and it's actually passed, you can now opt out of Social Security.
So the default mode is you're in it, like you are currently.
Yeah. Yep.
But then you can choose a private plan. Yep. Okay, so what about the people who opt out and do so badly?
So if politics has taught me anything, or at least how the American government works, the lobbyists will unfortunately stick their fingers in it, and they'll probably make it so you have to choose one or the other. I don't think that's the right answer.
Okay, but they're
optional.
So let's say that somebody chooses, I'm going to handle this by myself.
Yep.
I'm a smart guy. I can do this. And then they screw it all up.
No,
they have no money.
I think what's going to be more likely is there'll be 12 national firms that can manage a 401k or an IRA for you, and the government says you choose Social Security or you choose one of these companies, and your money just kind of goes out the same as taxes would, but that sort of thing.
So maybe the biggest, most successful one of the 12 companies who manages your retirement for you,
they go under,
is run by Bernie Madoff.
Yeah.
Now what?
Yep. Oh, the thing is, once you get to the point where you can make your own decisions, you are at risk, and, every day we choose to take risk. I get in my car, I assess the risk of driving on the road with a bunch of other people that really have no idea how to drive. So there's going to be a lot of people that are like, yeah, you know what? That sounds really scary. That sounds like I don't want that. I'm I'm going to choose the government option. And hopefully the government wouldn't force you to choose who your opt-out options are. But I suspect unless we get a couple libertarians elected, that's how it would go.
There's a lot of 19, 20, 21-year-olds who decide to, like roll the dice and run up a great big bunch of college debt on the IFCOM, hoping that some big six-figure job is going to be waiting for them.
Yeah,
and they're the ones living in mom's basement and working at Starbucks.
Yeah.
So, there's just that human factor.
And I don't disagree with that. I mean, there's a lot of people that have gambling problems. There's a lot of people that, they roll the dice, sometimes on a terribly misinformed decision. But it shouldn't be government's job to make decisions for people. People should be allowed to make their decisions. People should be allowed to do what they think is best with their money. And let's be realistic about it. I mean, people are going to do some dumb stuff. There's going to be people who today who don't plan for retirement. They're going to find out that their Social Security check is going to be $600 a month. And they're going to be in the same exact situation as somebody who had the opt-out option. They opted out and did a terrible, terrible job. They're going to be in the same spot. So it's not like this is a magic bullet that's going to fix and wash away welfare or anything like that. But I think that, and I hope that we'd get that option that, and by the time this rolls around, if it even comes as soon as I think, I'll be well into retirement, hopefully.
Doesn't that kind of define the attitude towards Social Security for every generation?
Sure,
it's working for me, but I think the younger people are really going to get screwed.
Yeah.
But there's another word, by the way, for all these people who are poor planners and who handle this badly. It's called a constituency. So you're going to always have an endless supply of politicians who will pander to those people, a la everybody from Cory Booker to Elizabeth Warren to P.F. Chang or whatever his name is, and these people will mine the underperformers or the folks who don't have the introspection to handle this thing for themselves or do it correctly. And those people will wind up having political power because it's victimology. They're a grievance group.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
I was misled about what this program could do for me.
Yeah. But I think that's no different than what we have today with Social Security. It's just a different name. Now the problem is, people have choice, which means they have to be responsible for themselves. And they don't like that. They don't like the idea that if they make a decision and it's wrong, the responsibility falls on them. They would much rather have the government to blame. So, no, I get it. I get it. Guys, when we come back from this break, I'm going to tell you how I think we could successfully get to this point where Social Security could become optional. We'll be back on Radio Free New York.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Fiorella, a family-owned farm-to-table Italian restaurant with casual atmosphere at the newly renovated Rochester Public Market. Fiorella offers wood-fired, old-world-style pizza with naturally leavened dough, house-made fresh pasta, desserts, and gelato. Enjoy craft beers, imported Italian and New York State wines. Open Wednesday through Saturday for lunch and dinner. Wednesday evenings enjoy no corkage fee, and Thursday is gnocchi night. Call 434-5705 for reservations. View the menu on the web, restaurantfiorella.com.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York on the WYSL stations.
All right, we are back here on Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, talking about Social Security. I think as I'm going through the numbers here, that in about 50 years, the American people might have the opportunity to opt out if things keep going the way they're going. Some of you are saying, wow, 50 years, that's a really long time. I might be dead by then. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And I do want to go to some of the comments here. I want to welcome a few of you guys to the show, those of you who are commenting on the live stream. So welcome to John, Nate, Laura, Tony. Who else? Another Nate, Doug, Markel, Vicky, Amy, Troy. Guys, thank you so much for joining us here on the show. I'm seeing a bunch of comments, so I'll just read a couple. Vicky says, Social Security is a Ponzi scheme, a way for the government to control us. 401k programs are a better way to save for retirement without government intervention. How do we change the status quo? I recall George W. Bush trying to make it optional. It failed. So I don't actually... I didn't know that Bush tried to make it optional. So that's something I'm going to have to do some research on.
I remember some talk about it. Yeah, I don't know how far it got.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I agree. I think a 401k, an IRA, a well-funded, properly put together investment portfolio that's diverse, and also having your own Roth IRA, having a couple high yield savings accounts. I think all of those are a much better way to go than Social Security. And when I look at my stuff, I see what I put into my investments versus what I'm predicted to get out of Social Security and what I put in there. It's a pretty big difference. So Social Security is like really crappy.
You're talking about a high yield savings account?
Yeah.
Dorothy, we're not in Kansas anymore. I don't think there is any such thing.
So high yield today is about 2%, which is not what you want, but it certainly is better than nothing. And it's way better than the interest accounts. I see people, I got 15 cents last year. I'm like, where's your money in? Oh, a 0.005% savings account. No, there's interest accounts out there where you can get 2% APR. They even compound the interest daily. Like you got to move your money.
These are at banks?
Mostly online banks. They're not really brick and mortar. We did I talked about them a while ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, in one of the things talking about high yield savings accounts. They're starting to do a little zigzaggy, going up and down because the Federal Reserve, the interest rates. But they're hovering right around a little over 2% right now, which is it's decent. If you've got that, that $16,000 that they're saying the average household has set aside in savings, I mean, that's a couple $100 by the end of the year if you keep your money there.
You can put me in the skeptical column about how often that happens.
Yeah, for sure. So then I've got Troy comments in and he says, But what I do need is for the federal government to refund every penny of it since it was stolen. So he's talking about Social Security here. Troy, I don't think we're ever seeing that money. I'm very hopeful. I would just say the government doesn't even have that money to give back. They have spent it. It's gone. So
they're like crazed sterno bums.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. I
get a couple more rocks of crack.
I would love to have my money back. If I could take it all back today as a lump sum, no interest gained, so that I could reinvest it myself.
Who wouldn't do that?
I would do it in a heartbeat. I think that they do such a poor job of managing it. I would take half of it and say we're good and reinvest just half of it, because I know.
Don't suggest it.
Yeah, don't suggest it. It might go for it, right?
Don't forget my Social Security's in there too.
Yeah. But
Well, you said that I would give up half of the Social Security, Andrew.
Yeah, no, Bob won't. But I would give up half mine to get back today and not pay any more of it. I would do that. Absolutely, because they do an awful job with the money. Now, that's not to say, for some people, it's the right answer. It is. For some people, it's the right answer. I'm not one of those people. That's why I want it optional. So I can make the choice that I believe is right for me. And I could be wrong, right? It's not like everybody's right. I could be wrong. But I would be willing to take that risk and go on it. So that's my thought. So how do we get there? How do we get to the point where maybe someday, 50 years from now, society is in a point where talking about Social Security being optional isn't taboo, isn't scary. People aren't like, oh no, people are going to die in the streets. The first thing you do, honestly, it all starts at home. Right? So you start talking with a financial advisor about a plan for your retirement. And you tell them, I don't want to rely on Social Security for this plan. I want this to work without Social Security in mind. And they will tell you what those numbers are. They'll tell you you could do less if you rely on Social Security. They're going to tell you that. If they're a good financial advisor, they're probably going to push you to rely on Social Security because you're paying for it. That's their job. But if you want to try to make this type of change, you want to plan on not having it. That doesn't mean you won't get it. You're still going to have to get it. The government, I think, they make you take it at 70, right? Like that's it. Once you turn 70, you have to start collecting.
I don't know about that.
There's a certain age where you can't deny it anymore. You have to start taking it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's 70. I'll have to double check. As a matter of fact, I owe Tom Hamilton a call today anyway, so I could ask him that question. But I think I'm going to start taking it, but
yeah, there's a certain age I wasn't really paying attention to that part because for me it felt kind of like far away.
So how does that work? They just start sending you checks?
I guess so. Yeah, at some point they're like, no, you have to take it.
I don't know about
that. So and then the next thing is, if you have that plan, if you set up that plan right, don't take it until you have to. You don't take it right at, was it 64 and a half you can take now? Or is it 65 and a half you can start taking it? I forget.
I think it's earlier than that. As long as you don't have earnings that would offset.
Yeah. Yeah, there's also a bunch of rules.
Oh, yeah.
But there's all
it's all these Byzantine rules. You got to talk to somebody like you said, like Tom Hamilton to give you a steer on it.
Yeah. So you do that. But then that's you. Then you have the next generation to take care of. So you have to teach your children about saving money. Help them open up an IRA account. When they get their first job, hopefully at 15 or 16 years old, if it's still legal to work that young.
Or
anymore.
13. Put them to work.
Yeah, put them to work. If you give them an allowance, I never had an allowance growing up, but if you do, make them put a portion of that allowance in the savings account. Teach them young.
Thank you.
And to help them on their first job. This is something I see very often. Kids get their first job and their parents start immediately saying, okay, good, now you can pay for all this stuff, which is great. You want them to learn that. Help your kid first job, set up direct deposit so that 20 to 30% of that paycheck direct deposits into one of those high yield savings accounts. First job. And second job, make sure they do it. Get them used to living on 70% of their income out of the gate. Get them used to budgeting for that. So many people I know who are in their 30s or even getting into their 40s, they're just starting to figure out how to live without 3% of their income. 3%. Like, give your kids that upper hand. Teach them how to live on 70% now, so that all through their life, they're already budgeted. They're already saving. They're already like set and good to go for the world. You know, that first house they buy, maybe they buy it in cash and they don't even take out a mortgage, you know, and then they realize how much property taxes really suck. And then maybe, you know, we start fighting that battle. So those are the things that I say, if you start doing this stuff today, you know, start with yourself, then help your kids, help your neighbors, tell your friends, tell your family, say, hey, you know what? I've decided I'm not going to rely on Social Security. It's something I'm forced into. I have to pay into it. I'm not going to plan around it. And I hope that maybe someday it becomes optional. Tell people, let them get the idea that maybe that seems like a cool idea for them too. And maybe in 50 years, maybe it will be.
Maybe we can get rid of some bureaucrats.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? You know, maybe we start looking at the Social Security fund and they go, you know, people aren't really relying on this anymore. And it's a really awful deal anyways. Let's make it optional and let's reduce the size of the organization that manages it. And let's, you know, and it's something that
that's just crazy talk now, Andrew. You're talking about letting a bunch of bureaucrats go and letting people take control of their lives.
Yeah, I'm an optimist. You know, that's sometimes, I mean, most of things in life, I'm a realist. You know, my wife and I, we talk about this very often. But for this, I'm a little optimistic. I saw the numbers, was totally taken aback. And I was like, you know, maybe there's an optimistic outcome for this. So guys, if you want, there are, I think, 2 or 3 other podcasts on YouTube that I've done over the last year talking about how Social Security works, different high yield savings accounts, that sort of thing. These aren't sponsored by any of the organizations in there. They're just numbers I pulled off the internet. Definitely, you know, check them out. Understand what Social Security is. Please talk to a financial advisor. I am not a financial advisor. I can just tell you what I've done that's been successful. And sometimes my financial advisor says, Andrew, you got to stop doing that. You know, and I take his advice. You know, when he tells me I'm not doing something right, I take his advice. You got to find somebody who you trust. Let them put together a financial plan for you. It'll tell you where you are, tell you what you got to do, and tell you if you're on track for retirement. It's really important. Guys, I will catch you on Friday, where we're going to talk probably about some more Cuomo tax breaks, which always go awful for us. So I'll catch you guys Friday. Have a great day.